Made it. Figured it out.
We did it.
Hey, Blue, how you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for joining. I'm excited to kick it off. It's been a minute since we've chatted um, over FaceTime or IRL or whatever. But I wanted to start by giving everyone a little bit of an intro about you, about your work, kind of how long you've been doing it, just the general overview of yourself as a creative.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Bloo Woods. I am a 3D artist and animator based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I specialize in Afro-futurism, robotics. I like Afro-surrealism as well. Before that, I was a wedding photographer and videographer, also a video editor, and I still kind of dabble in animation as well.
I feel maybe most people can relate to this, that we've like lived so many lives, and that, before I'm creative, you were actually working in other industries, and I think you were a wedding photographer, you said, and unlike a lot of other artists, you also have a job. So I think that's where you cut off. So you're full time during the day. Let's get back to jump.
Yeah, yes. Full-time animator by the day, and by night I also freelance and dabble in the NFT space for the last couple of years. So yeah.
Amazing. So I mean, if anyone can relate to how busy you must be, pushed full time during the day, and then working on all these amazing client projects and NFT projects and stuff, and your free time off the clock at nights, weekends. That is just part of the hustle. And I know we've been working together for a couple of years. Do you have intention of going full-time freelance, or do you like kind of where your schedule at is and like the routine of it all now? What are your thoughts on, that stability versus full-time for, I don't know, maybe what you've learned or other people that are kind of in the same boat as you?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't advise many artists to do what I do, which is working full time and also freelancing. I definitely, well, to go back a little bit, I continued working full time just because I love the company that I'm at, the agency that I'm at. If I wasn't working there, I probably would have gone full time freelance like I did prior, around 2020. But yeah, I love the people there, and at the time now, yeah, I can definitely balance the two or three.
Yep.
At times. It's definitely, oh, go ahead.
You stay busy.
I definitely stay busy, yeah, for sure. And yeah, my weekends are definitely, I'm not seeing a lot of friends, and even the kind of the personal projects that I want to tackle too as well, I kind of have to schedule a little bit more in advance. So it's definitely a lot of balancing, definitely a good balancing act with all three.
Yeah, balance is one of the biggest things that comes up. It's, like balancing your personal creative work, the work that pays, client work, job stuff, partners, friendships, all of that. And I think that, you must do a good, but I know that it takes a lot of energy. So just, in terms of your medium and your focus in your personal work, are you working on similar platforms or programs that you do at your day job, or are they totally separate?
Oh yes, for sure. They're definitely the same programs. Before I got into 3D animation, I didn't know 3D art. I didn't know I could actually use Cinema 4D to actually do 3D art until I saw like some artists like Leah Catherine and Beeple. Because I'm self-taught, so I knew how to work After Effects and Photoshop and Premiere and all that. And I definitely use Cinema 4D to help kind of enhance my motion design and animation. But once I saw like people actually posting online on Instagram, I'm like, oh, I could actually use this program with like the ideas that I have in my head and actually put that out instead of kind of trying to shoot it myself or use other mediums. So yeah, with full time, it's more definitely corporate work. I'm designing LED designs for conferences, kind of speaking head videos as well, or those type of animations in that world. But I'm definitely using the the same kind of idea for 3D art and implementing it into my full-time work.
Totally. Cool. I know. I think it benefits you well, kind of just staying, busy and staying practiced in your day job and in your creative work also. I think a big question that is, I keep seeing it kind of pop up at the bottom, is the onset of AI. What is going on with AI? What is your opinion of AI? Funnily enough, I think your Afro-futuristic work kind of looks like the character, the avatars could be, AI. They could be definitely not kind of probably where your intention ever was. But how do you think that things are navigating with the onset of AI, the capabilities with AI? Is it something that interests you? Do you think it's positive? Do you think it's negative? I think that there's a lot of kind of concern and excitement around it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I kind of go back and forth with it. At first, I was definitely intrigued. Like I'm definitely, with any new technology that comes like in front of me, I kind of dabble with it. When Unreal started to become prevalent, I dabbled in that as well, and virtual reality and metaverses, and of course NFTs. So when I saw AI art, I definitely like dived in head first and used it more so, instead of creating art itself, was using it more as like a reference for the work that I'm doing now. So instead of like looking on Pinterest or Instagram, I can kind of just make my own references, right? But also get the negative connotation with that, because AI art is also sourcing just art from everywhere without any permission, right? So I definitely understand the other side of it, and also other artists as well that are not in the AI art, that are thinking that AI art is not really art itself. Like it's, all you're doing is putting a prompt in and creating this image, right? And you're more of like a creative director of sorts than an actual artist. So I'm open to different, perspectives with that. There's some artists that are like gung-ho, not into AI art at all. But again, I use it more so as like for references. And even with Chat GPT, that's implemented on my phone constantly, right? So like I always use it to check grammar stuff or to enhance paragraphs and for emails. I use it for like coming up with different paragraphs or backgrounds for some of my characters, or in my NFT work as well. So there's definitely utility in it. And I try not to, with new things, you can fear it, right? Like it's gonna definitely take away certain jobs, but it's also going to give a lot of jobs as well. So I tend to lean in and try to gain up as much information as I can on the subject, and again, remain open.
Totally. It is super interesting. And I think you hit that right on the nose, that like there can be utility in it without it taking over your work. I mean, using it for sketches or ideation, I think is a cool utility, just to take kind of with a grain of salt, like with any references, any art and any visual, any references. I mean, everything comes from somewhere, AI, especially, are included. So I think it's cool to use it, as a tool to benefit you without it, affecting your work output too much. I think that, there is a lot of concern out there, and I think, with anything new, it's kind of like having its moments of excitement and kind of working through the pain points and, the fear that everyone has. But yeah, thank you for that. I think that it's super interesting. And I also I think that you were just a part of NFT Korea, the big showcase out there. So you're still active in the NFT space. You're still, making work for yourself and for sale and availability. And how's that been going? I know things are also up and down with that.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it was really cool. Super Chief contacted me a couple weeks, well, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and gave me the opportunity to be showcased in NFT Korea. And I've already had like a few. I was working on a series of like 7 to 8 pieces, and I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely use this one for sure. It was a piece called Idol, very similar to the style that I definitely do. But yeah, it's been think all the pieces sold out within that showcase, and I'm definitely, I can't wait to see, like, it's on a big monolith as well, so I definitely want to see images of that. But yeah, the NFT space, it hasn't cooled off. I'm probably within the next week and a half, I'm going to like dive in headfirst into another project that I'm doing that's coming out in April, with Nyx.
Cool.
And yeah, it's still going.
Super cool. Yeah, shout out to our friends over at Super Chief. They do an amazing job kind of facilitating these shows and opportunities. We worked with them a lot for Art Basel Miami this year. Super Chief is a gallery based here in LA. They also have a New York branch. They're also on the internet, so it's infinite. But yeah, they do an amazing job curating and making artists' work available and accessible. That's super cool. So what is something that you want to get into more in your work? I know you've been developing avatars and environments, and dabbling a little bit in apparel, and all the client projects that we do, all industries, all over the map, food and beverage, auto, beauty, fashion, all of that. Is there anything that you want to get into more with your work, or with the client output or the collaborations that you do?
I'm pretty open, honestly. I definitely want to get more into Unreal Engine and dive into that. I was really inspired by Buck Render when he put out his kind of metaverse last year, and I definitely see the potential in that as well, where you can kind of create your own world and have other people kind of like dive into that as well and create within it. So it's definitely a lot of possibilities within Unreal, and I kind of dabbled around in it, and I think once I need to spend like maybe segment like a month or two just to solely dive into that as well. But yeah, I bought a new camera, so I'm thinking about getting more into like shooting again a little bit more, just to kind of help with my 3D art, because of my video and photography background. I know that's definitely helpful. So yeah, just keep on creating, basically being an artist, and yeah, I'm just like, the NFT world I'm just so inspired by like all these artists and all this work that's coming out, man, and it's really cool.
I know. Shout out to Fuckrender, to Fred, for like being really ahead of that train, and a lot of the H+ artists, honestly.
Right.
But are there specific artists that you really looked up to, or that influenced your work, or just kind of your trajectory then or now? Has that changed? Who are some of your tops, just out of curiosity?
Ooh, that's okay. I don't know, like again, like when I got into this space because of Beeple, I just love his output. He was the one that kind of got me. Well, he was the sole reason why I got into doing dailies. Just putting up the output and having that efficiency within that. And yeah, Beeple just is a crazy mind. Whatever he comes up with, he just puts it out. Definitely a lot of the artists that are in H+, to be honest with you, like Shams is incredible. Jason's incredible. Blake is incredible. Giant Swan. Like, it's
right.
the whole list there is really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, you did a really good job with that. Like, I always tell people, like, there should be like a documentary based on like what you have done within the last like 4 or 5 years, just kind of like having the roster that you have of 3 artists that are basically taking over the NFT space. It's really wild.
Totally, I appreciate that, and it is all very intentional, because you guys are all super talented, and I respect and admire all of the artist work that we work with, and you're one of them. You're a big part of it, so I really appreciate everyone's skill set, and I mean, we've been killing it. It's exciting stuff. So just, I know we haven't really walked through your process, like technical stuff. For anyone that's interested, do you want to just touch on what you use, what you love, software, kind of export stuff, and avatars and apparel, kind of like your kind of beginning to end workflow?
Sure, yeah. It's really project by project, but software wise, I use just about everything. Cinema 4D is my main software of choice. I use Marvelous Designer for the apparel and clothing. I use Dash 3D for a lot of like the base figure models that I use, and then take that into ZBrush to kind of enhance it a little further, and put that into Cinema 4D and render in Octane. So yep, and of course all the Adobe products, Photoshop, After Effects with any animation, Premiere as well. I played around with Blender a little bit, just because like it's just funny. The last 5 years we kind of laughed at Blender, but now it's becoming like almost an industry standard. And when new artists like approach me wanting to get into the space, I'm like, yeah, just dive into Blender, like, because it's open source. It seems like every week there's something like a cool new plugin that someone's created, and it's free. So yeah, just dive into that. So I kind of play around in Blender. I love what they're doing there. But yeah, spec-wise, I have two 3090s that I use. I build my own PC. This is my third build actually, because I build a PC for the agency that I work for as well. I kind of got into that during COVID. That was like my first time building a computer. Like, oh, I have some time. Let me learn this.
That's you and everyone. That's a great time to take advantage of that for sure. That's so cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but also like I guess my process with creating my pieces, I again usually use references. I go on Pinterest, kind of find artists that inspire me in the particular project, kind of put that together, and then really dive into blocking out in Cinema 4D with primitive shapes, kind of get the lighting and the camera where I want it, and then kind of go in from there, create the avatar, put it in, get down to texturing and lighting and all that jazz.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, and I mean, when we do, client commercial projects, I'm sure it's pretty similar, different kind of for every project. What have you ever had, any major challenges with client asks, or, are there things that you prefer better with clients, or, things that you, I don't know, find difficult? I know having a nice, creative brief and strong creative direction is always helpful in the beginning, but are there projects that you prefer, or things that you would, prefer not to do?
Yeah, I prefer clients that kind of know what they want. I think when it's very open, a lot of times they see my work, which is good. They see my work and kind of like look at what they do and try to implement my style into their work, right? But if it's too vast and too open, it's kind of hard to like nail it down and really focus on their goals and what they're trying to accomplish out of whatever their project is. So that's why, again, like you said, the creative brief and that process early on, the pre-planning stage is so important.
Totally.
Just so everyone's on the same page, and everyone knows what to expect, especially with revisions, because we all have our nightmare clients where after like the fourth revision, they still want something shifted here and there, and it's like, well, you got to go back to the contract and the creative brief. So yeah.
Have you had any favorite clients or favorite projects that you worked on or that we worked on together? It doesn't have to be us, but I don't know.
Yeah, I like the Porsche. The Porsche client probably was my favorite of last year, pretty soon.
That was
just because, yeah.
Blue, for those of you that didn't see, it's up on our site. It's an amazing project we did with Porsche, their new electric vehicle, the Taycan, I believe it was called. But the 3D billboard that was made out of your work, I believe it was in Times Square. It was so phenomenal, and I'm so impressed. And I mean, that the work and the client just like blew me away. And I think that was a huge moment for you, a huge moment for us, and incredible work.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for allowing me to kind of showcase my abilities. Like it was definitely a surreal moment. Once I received, I wish I would have saw it like in person, but receiving like photos and videos in Times Square, I'm like, wow. And my parents are like, oh, this is incredible. So a lot of times they don't, family members don't really know what you do. It's like, oh, you're a 3D artist. Do you work on cartoon animations, or like what do you do? So the fact that like the work was on Times Square was incredible, but just the client itself was just amazing. Honestly, like they knew what they wanted to do, but also allowed the artists to, like me and Blake, and I forgot who else was on there, to just, you know, really show and shine with our capabilities.
Totally.
And it was definitely a collaborative effort. But yeah, that was really cool.
Totally, I agree. We'll chat for maybe another 5 or 10 minutes. I see a couple questions popping up down below. If anyone has questions, they can send it to me. I think you can send it ahead of time down there, and then we'll do a Q&A with Bloo at the end, and we'll try and answer all of those. Anything that you have regarding his creative, his process, kind of his, you know, upbringing or whatever, or H+, happy to answer that. Obviously, focusing on Bloo creative today. For those of you that missed the intro, Bloo is one of the H+ artists based in Atlanta, Georgia, and works phenomenally well in the 3D space. Obviously, renders, NFTs, avatars. He definitely has his own kind of stylized approach, which I think that you're totally known for. Do you remember when you kind of felt that time when it really clicked, like when you were aesthetically kind of trying to figure out what your style was and where it felt like it made sense, and kind of were you know, I think your work is super recognizable, and that's something that I look for with all of the artists, but sometimes trying to define your own style is a hard thing to do. You did it really well. Do you remember kind of that moment, or what influenced, or kind of how you got to be creating the work that you do now?
Yeah, like, okay. I guess the cool thing about doing dailies too, is you can kind of look back on, like, if I scroll back like to the very beginning of me doing dailies, I can see the journey of when that shift actually occurred, right? So I definitely, to find my aesthetic, it was definitely the dailies. If I didn't do that, I think it would have taken me a very long time to get to the kind of style that I have now. But I've always been influenced by sci-fi and by Afro-futurism and by just, just meshing like my culture, like with hip hop and cars and shoe culture with science fiction and fantasy, and blending those worlds together with vivid colors. That always was like my end goal. I just didn't know how to get there. So I definitely think failing early and often by just like keep on getting into the program every day and just iterating on what you do. The style kind of finds you,
totally,
in a sense.
No, I think that it's a very natural progression with practice. You know, if you put work and you're intentionally practicing, there's no way that your history, your background, your culture, your interests, kind of everything's going to become realized, I think, in your work. But I think that the more you experiment and explore and practice, like, that helps it come out. Have been doing the dailies been a critical part of your practice? Is that something that you would recommend for any creative to have, like a daily export, a daily practice, you know? And how is that with like the pressure for you, like thinking that you had to do everything or making something amazing every day? Was that like a lot of pressure for you?
Yeah, it took a while to get over that, to kind of relinquish that idea of just putting it out there in the world, whatever that thing is, right? And I think that's the philosophy of daily art in itself. It's like it's really you diving into the program every day and being intentional about learning something and just sharpening the tool, I feel like. So like, yeah, there was definitely times, and of course at this point in time, I'm not doing dailies just because like last year, it was around the wedding, because I got married in October. And it was so much happening. I think I was doing a client project on top of work, on top of planning for the wedding, on top of some NFT stuff that was happening, and trying to do a personal, like a daily every day. I talked to my wife, and she's very supportive of dailies, just because it kind of like just that implementing that practice really, like, I think this is the reason why I'm working with you. The reason why I'm working with so many cool clients is just I got to my aesthetic and my style, and putting something out every day allows for the right people to see your work and relate to that work, right? So yeah, I'm going to dive back in. I'm thinking around May this summer, just to keep doing it. When new artists like approach me and ask like, what's the one thing I should do, I definitely recommend it. You will feel like it's the quickest way to find your aesthetic and your style, because if you don't do that, then, you know, days will go by, weeks will go by, and you're not doing any art, and you're never going to get to that, you know, that 12th or that 50th piece of art that's going to be like, oh, that's the click, that's the light bulb moment where, oh, okay, like I really want to go down this lane here.
No, I mean, it's a practice. It's like a, you know, a balance to your time, like a steady practice to kind of have that time to explore. And I think that, yeah, I think that it is really critical, and also just to remain, you know, relevant to yourself, to the basis of your work, to potential clients, you know, without maybe having all that pressure that social media puts on it. I think it's, you know, picturing it more for yourself and more for, you know, something that you're constantly exploring within you. And I think that you've done a really, really cool job at that.
Thank you.
Are there, you know, bits or advice or, you know, kind of keys that you want to share for anyone starting out, maybe, you know, beginner artists that want to do client work, you know, artists that want to, you know, find their personal style? Is there anything that you can think of that's really helped you? You know, I know we covered the daily practice, you know, kind of finding your style. Is there anything that really like has helped you along the way? It could be anything. It could be a cocktail at the end of the day. Yeah. I don't know.
No, it's definitely a cocktail. Like, again, I think the number one thing, if I had to make a list, would be the dailies. And the number two would be like, within doing dailies is doing tutorials. I'm definitely, I call myself self-taught, but I'm really not self-taught. I'm learning from so many other artists that are online that are giving their time to teach me something, right? So, you know, even with certain dailies that I did do, I come in with intention, like, okay, I want to learn about water simulations. Let me look at a 20-minute tutorial, kind of follow along and see how I can implement that system into my art. And once you keep doing that, you're doing like a new tutorial like every other day, even every week. You're continuously learning, right? And again, it's about failing early and often to get to the end goal, which is your aesthetic, or to get client work if that's your end goal. But and really it's kind of like relinquishing like just the social media, honestly. Like, a lot of times I feel like people are chasing likes when they go into dailies. Like, it's okay if you only get 10 likes or 5 likes. Like, that's not your social credit score. It's fine. The algorithm is the algorithm. It's gonna shift and change. I know it's kind of hard because we want, you know, that 5,000, 10,000 liked image, but yeah, it's okay to kind of like just focus on the internal journey of getting your work to that level that you aspire to be at. And with consistency, like, that's when it's really about like being in the right place at the right time. And like, I guess that is luck, right? But just continuously putting out work, continuously making yourself better is definitely the route.
Yeah. No, totally. Well, very well said. So I want to open it up to a little bit of a Q&A with Bloo. If you guys have questions, anything you want answered, feel free to send them to you can. There's a little, I think, question button. I know that someone had a question a couple scrolls back about kind of the revision process. That kind of has to do with client stuff, client projects, and that's where I come in, and that's kind of how we assist manage our projects with artists. But our standard is 2 revision rounds in still, 1 in motion, and we always have a written contract. We always have an agreement that the client signs, and that is a very key part of doing client work and commercial work, is having that in paper and, you know, having everyone on the same page, managing expectations. And if they don't, that's where I get to come in. So feel free to shoot over any questions that you have. I have a question from the Owl's Den asking, how did you start with getting exposure? Was it social media? Was it word of mouth? Was it websites? You know, how did your kind of exposure journey start, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone, right? There's some people that will use Twitter. I know when I was freelancing before getting into 3D art, I would even like cold email. There's this book called The Freelance Manifesto. Definitely recommend picking that book up if you freelance. for the 3D art in itself, it was really Instagram. That was my main focus, and this was again before NFTs, and probably like a year or two, maybe 2 years before COVID. But Instagram was my main focus. I would definitely make sure that I put a lot of attention there, and yeah, like the right people, the right clients. At first, when I was starting off, it would be, you know, smaller artists, or like, you know, of course, rappers, or small businesses that would see your pieces. And yeah, like clients are, again, trying to find ways to implement your art and your work into what they do if they love your art, right? So if you create food, like a 3D artist that makes food, if you keep doing that, then eventually the right client's going to see you that is a small business within food, and they'll contact you, right? So but also, you don't have to just focus on one thing. You can kind of spill it everywhere. You can put it on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I know there's people that are using TikTok. There's people that are, of course, YouTube, or going the more educational approach with getting clients, where they, as they're learning, they also teach and put the tutorials on YouTube and whatnot, and clients will see that, and it's like, oh, this person is an expert in their craft. I need to use them and utilize their capabilities. So there's definitely a lot of ways to do it. I with the Instagram route, just because it was working for me, the algorithm was working for me. But yeah,
I think when it comes to exposure, I mean, promotion of your own work is super detrimental. You know, shameless self-promotion is super detrimental. Social media is a great marketing tool. It's a great free tool for now. You know, all of the portfolio websites, Dribbble, YouTube, all of the portfolio sites that you can get on, you know, don't feel bad about just blasting your work and showcasing your work as it evolves. I think that consistency and spreading your work out is, you know, it's super valuable. That's a lot of free exposure. I have another question from Ranfar that is curious about your sci-fi background. Where do you see AI taking us in 10 years? That is a very question.
In 10 years, I can't even fathom.
I mean, that's not a
like,
far.
it's
That's a long.
Yeah, I mean, the world's gonna look different in 10 years. By then, Apple, I think, will release their AR glasses. I feel like AR is gonna be like the next big technology that kind of bridges the gap with digital and real life.
Accessible.
So
I think you're right.
Right, but like with AI, man, like I didn't even know about AI art maybe a year and a half ago. Last year I did with my agency that I work for. We do presentations at retreats, and I did mine on AI art, and people were intrigued by it. But even since then, like, it has gotten crazier, and of course,
very fast.
Right, so fast, and it's gonna get into video. But yeah, I think AR is just gonna get faster, more efficient. We'll see how the legal implications work, because I know there's a couple of lawsuits happening with that. I'm keeping my eyes out on, but yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen in 10 years. I would assume that a lot of concept artists, like on, you know, the low level, maybe will have to figure some stuff out. But yeah, you just kind of gotta evolve with the technology itself, or kind of get left behind and be the old man that's grumpy. So yeah, I don't know.
Stay up with technology, kids. It's coming for us.
It's not going anywhere. That's even with NFTs, right? Like, you can hate it, but it's here. The technology is here. Companies are implementing it. There's even, and like, I know of other agencies that are like working with either social media or like PR that's using ChatGPT in their work. Like, people are embracing this stuff, right? And it's gonna get faster and faster, month by month, year by year.
Totally. It's gonna be hard to kill. So accept it, I guess. Do what you can to not totally shy away from it. But it's gonna be a different place in 10 years, especially with AI, AR. We have a question from Onaji. Sorry if I butchered that name.
Onaji. Hey, what's up? Yeah.
Onaji wants to know, what are some of the best the best ways to learn or best practices specifically for metaverse 3D environment design. Something that you've gotten into, I'm assuming that that's what Fuckrender did with his Fuckrender kind of metaverse 3D environment design. Do you know about the best ways to learn or best practices for building that out?
I know that the two main kind of software of choice is, like we talked about before, Unreal Engine and also Unity. These are like game engines that have been around for years, but now artists are like, oh, we can, instead of making a game, we can kind of make our own segmented realities within a system, if it's online, on a browser, or even with VR headsets, where people can kind of create their own virtual environments and put goggles on and look around. I know Blake did that a few times. But yeah, go on YouTube. Unreal Engine for me, it's once you get around, I think with any new software that you come across, like, just do a lot of tutorials, get used to being inside the software itself, kind of knowing the buttons and the layouts, because everyone uses different kind of navigation within the software itself, and just dive in and play around. There's, again, so many people with it seems like every day coming out with tutorials on how to do a certain thing, and people are very helpful. And even like if you see an artist or an engineer or something on social media like Twitter or Instagram, feel free to reach out to them, because a lot of people are helpful. They want to share their knowledge and what they learn, and yeah, people are really good with passing information and knowledge.
Oh, totally. Another question, we kind of covered this way back, but again, it's about AI, and it's a fascinating new technology. Version 31.mov is curious. How do you implement the various AI tools into your art? We kind of covered this a little bit before, but what do you see the benefit from AI art? Like, how do you work with it in your art again?
Yeah, for me, what I've used it for, mostly, I say about like 85% is references. I have a prompt, or instead of like, say like, even with environment work, or you can be really precise on how a building is inside of a camera, a different camera lens, or like just the look of a certain avatar, or color combinations. Like, you can, any kind of idea you have in your head, you can definitely put the prompt there and use as a reference. I've definitely also used it for texturing, right? I saw a few artists on Instagram use it for texturing, and even again with Blender, there's someone that created like a plugin that it's like in Blender, you can just type it in and create your own textures, like brick layouts or any like alien type of texture that you want, and implement that within your objects and 3D software. But yeah, there's so many things. Donnell, I think he's doing a lot of really cool stuff with AI. If you're not in 3D, the Corridor crew just released the anime and AI anime thing, where they created their own kind of anime style using AI art and making video with that. So yeah, there's so many functions with it. Yeah.
Keep building. I know, again, for AI, I think, sketching, concepting, kind of using it as an exploratory tool is super useful, beneficial. But be careful out there, kids. Maybe know what you're stealing from, or know that it does have implications. But I think it is a cool tool. Another question: what are some of your favorite or go-to tutorial sources? Do you have a specific website or a specific person that you look at tutorials from that you love?
I wish I could pull it up, maybe. Yeah, iDesign, EJ iDesign, he was really kind of pivotal in a lot of the early tutorial works that I was doing, especially if you wanted to learn like character animation. Yeah, he's really, like, look him up on YouTube. He's really dope. CG short. Oh, go ahead.
Mainly on YouTube is where you look.
On YouTube is where I look. Before, there were, I don't know if there's that many now. I think there are a few, but Twitch is also pretty big. I know Blake and Shams, and Jason, they used to kind of just go on Twitch and just play around in there for like doing either a project or a personal piece. And that's really cool because you can like ask questions while you're watching the person do the thing and just kind of vibe out with them, right? And so go on Twitch and the art section there. I'm sure there's plenty of 3D artists there that are kind of creating, and you can ask questions directly and get knowledge. And they're so helpful. They can send you tutorials. I know Patreon too. I follow a few people on Patreon. Well, they'll give you some, assets and different resources, and also kind of like private tutorials on certain things. So,
totally. Yeah. Another question for you is, what is your favorite end of the day cocktail?
End of the day cocktail. I don't really drink cocktails as much. I'm a beer guy.
There you go.
Yeah, so I like IPAs. Give me a good IPA, and I'm golden. So,
cool.
And if I drink liquor, I usually drink it on the rocks. So I'll drink some whiskey. So
classic.
Cocktails. Yeah.
Another question from FL Star: where do you draw inspiration from for your art? What are your sources of inspiration for your work, Bloo?
Yeah. Hey, Star. Yeah, I draw inspiration from, again, my background and my culture with hip hop, and even growing up, I used to see like my cousin. I wasn't really big in cars or even like buying clothes or like shoes. I was kind of a big nerd. Like growing up, I played a lot of video games, Final Fantasy, Call of Duty and stuff. But I always looked up to my cousins that would like drive these nice cars and would have like the $200 shoes. I was like, oh, that's so far-fetched to me at the time, but just really had this kind of style and aesthetic to them. So I still kind of reach back to that and see that aesthetic. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. But again, I'm just drawn to hip hop. I'm drawn to what it means to be human. Gender identity is really interesting to me as well.
Cool.
Yeah, just all of it. Just like that's the cool thing about surrealism too, is you're mashing what's real in the abstract, and you're creating these new concepts. So even with a piece like the Waffle House piece I did, I'm grabbing the actual physical Waffle House, but implementing it in my style with these crazy colors that you've never seen before. So it kind of invokes something new with two contracting ideas.
Totally. I think it's really also cool to be aware of and to kind of know the basis of your work, or know where those inspirations are coming from, your culture, from your history, kind of see how your interests are coming into play there. And yeah, you saying all that, I mean, that totally makes sense to me with, the cars and the Afro-futurism and the gender and, just kind of your history. That's super cool. Maybe a couple more questions, and then we're going to close it out and keep this available for anyone to see or watch in full up on our Instagram, up on our Vimeo. Another question for you is, when do we get to see a Bloo tutorial? Do you have any plans, tutorials, or do Twitch, or kind of show a little bit of your behind the scenes process to your fans or other artists that are interested?
Yeah, I know that's popular demand. I keep pushing it back. I have a Twitch channel, and I've done maybe 2 Twitch streams.
Cool.
But I need to find a good day. If it's like a Wednesday or Thursday evening, where I'll have my like an hour and a half to 2 hours where I can really focus and be consistent with that actual day. And for the next few weeks, I'm not comfortable saying like, oh, I'm going to do it on this specific day. But I definitely this year, Q2 for sure, I'm going to get back on Twitch heavy, kind of show my process there, and people can come in and ask questions. So not specifically doing tutorials on YouTube. I want to do YouTube content eventually, but more so on like, not lifestyle, but like desk setups and kind of like how to manage being an artist in itself, but not like tutorials on how to do this lighting setup or simulation. I'll keep stick with Twitch for that, and then you can just kind of come in and see the process and ask questions. So yeah, within the next month, I'm gonna dive in for sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna look out for. I really like the idea of lifestyle tutorials, just like how can we manage, what should I have for breakfast, what should be on my desk, like where, you know, how long should I go for a walk for, just like somebody help, like just give us to abide to.
And of course, I'm not an expert at all in this, but yeah, it definitely intrigues me, and I feel like if I shoot it, I'll be more inclined to kind of create those systems. I already have a few systems in place, but it's all about being more intentional with the systems you do have. So,
on routine in your day-to-day, I mean, I feel like you kind of have to be with your schedule.
I missed the beginning of that. What was it?
Big on like a personal routine in your day-to-day. You have, you know, things that you do to create or do to get going or do to kind of hype yourself up. You know, in finding that balance, do you feel like a routine helps you, or kind of blocking out time, or do you have any kind of secret?
Oh yeah, I do, for sure. Yeah, I don't have, like, I have a very loose routine, and it's usually shifts because of my sleeping patterns. It's like as of late, I've been going to bed a lot later, like around 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock. So that routine shifts. But usually when I go to the computer, I do the same thing. I'm kind of like, it's not meditation. It's just really like a decompression, realizing that, all right, you're going to look at this computer screen for a while, a couple hours, kind of like prep for that. I try not to get on social media early on. It kind of stagnates the process, but I like to get on Pinterest and look at either like old pins that I have, or kind of find new ideas through that, just to have some type of inspiration. And yeah, usually then I'll go on Instagram, and my feed is full of just like animations and NFTs of late and 3D art. So it's really, my feed in itself is inspiring, which is good, but I don't recommend like just the endless doom kind of scrolling. It's probably not wise at all.
Really cool, and I think that's really valuable to have like a go-to source of inspiration, whether it's like a folder of images or a Pinterest board, or, you know, bring it back to you know, some creative blogs, or I mean books, for
books too.
God's sake. I love books, old sci-fi books or whatever, I'm sure. But yeah, old sources of inspo or go-to sources, I think that's a really cool place to start. I think we'll close it out here. Bloo, is there anything left you want to add? Words of wisdom, or, you know, anything for people to look out for, things you have coming up, or anything you want to right now? Someone was actually curious about your bike. Do you want to talk about that bike?
Oh, that's oh man, yeah, that bike. I haven't. It's more of a prop now, to be completely honest with you. Before COVID, I worked at another agency that was really close by, like maybe a 1.5 to 2 minute bike ride. So I had the bike. I bought the bike then, and I've ridden it around during COVID a lot, and then since it's just basically a prop, to be completely honest with you. So I need to use that. Yeah.
Anything?
But yeah, I don't have words of wisdoms.
Yeah.
Not really. I think, yeah, we kind of hit on a lot of it. Really, it's just fail, be comfortable failing. I'm telling you, like, don't be afraid to fail. If you have an idea, try it out. You never know if it's going to be that 5th or 8th idea that's going to be the thing that's going to, you know, set you apart from everybody else, or put you in a really cool place. So just keep trying it.
Great.
It's okay.
Preach and practice, and do your dailies.
Do your dailies. Brush your teeth.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Again, Bloo Woods is one of the H+ roster artists based in Atlanta, Georgia. We are going to keep this conversation up on the feed. You can reference back to it. You can see it on our Vimeo. We'll keep it around. Feel free to reach out to me, myself, Hannah, the founder of H+, or Bloo Woods anytime. And thank you again, everyone. That was super fun. And thank you for all of your attention and great questions. That was fabulous. Thanks, Bloo.
Thanks for having me. See you guys.
See you soon. Bye-bye.